Thank you for joining us. This is a special Shabbat. This is Shabbat, and also it's Yom Kippur. We've come to you just with a brief message today on this Yom Kippur afternoon. We attended Kol Nidre services, which mean dissolution of vows, a service that's done before Yom Kippur starts. It is a legal document that's sung, and you can research that if you will Google it. There are a number of things on Google that tells you what the Kol Nidre is about. And so we've come to explain what we believe Yom Kippur means to us as believers in Messiah Jesus Yeshua. Yom Kippur, as God gave it to Israel, and I'll read to you from, you can find it, a longer explanation in Leviticus 16:1 through 34, but I'm going to read to you from Numbers 7 through 11, and Numbers 7 through 11. Azeh mikre kadosh yihye lechem ve'unetem et nefshetechem kol melacha lo te'asu. On the 10th day of the month of the same 7th month, you shall observe a sacred occasion when you shall practice self-denial. You shall do no work. You shall present to the Lord a burnt offering of pleasing odor, 1 bull of the herd, 1 ram, 7 yearling rams. See that they are without blemish. The meal offering with them, and of choice flour with oil mixed in, shall be 3/10 of the measure for a bull, 2/10 for the 1 ram, 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs. And there shall be 1 goat for a sin offering, in addition to the sin offering of expiation, and the regular burnt offering with its meal offering, each with its libation. And Israel did this during temple times of the Beit HaMikdash. They were offering an offering for sin. And we contend, because of the sacrifice that Jesus Yeshua HaMashiach made, that he is the sin offering for all times. And that if we have a choice to accept the sin offering that the Lord provided. If we go back to the Garden of Eden, there was a tree of the knowledge of good and evil that the Lord told Adam and Eve not to eat from. And also there was the tree of life. Yeshua calls himself the tree of life. And if we but choose to eat from this tree of life now, we will have eternal life. But it is a choice. As I was, during my Hebrew class, my Hebrew teacher said to me when he came, he said, Chatima Tova, which Chatima is signature. Tova. In Orthodox Christianity, especially in Revelations, it talks about being written in the Lamb's Book of Life. And there's no difference in this scenario. This is the same book that Moses talked about when he was interceding for Israel at one time, and he said to God, take me out of the book of life if you will not assist these people. So this is the same book of life that Israel on Yom Kippur is striving to have a Chatima Tova, a good signature. And a good signature means that your name is in the book. So at Yom Kippur last night, at the beginning of the services, the rabbi says, Gomer Chatima Tova, which means he finishes a good signature. And as I was talking with John this afternoon, that saying, Gomer Chatima Tova, explains a lot, because in John 19:30, when Jesus is on the cross, and I'll read a few verses, I'll start at 28. After this, and Jesus is on the cross now, knowing that all things had already been accomplished, in order that the scripture might be fulfilled, said, I'm thirsty. A jar full of sour wine was standing there. So they put a sponge full of the sour wine upon a branch of hyssop, and brought it up to his mouth. When Jesus therefore had received the sour wine, he said, It is finished. He bowed his head and gave up his spirit. And this was, I'm going to read the 31st verse. The Jews therefore, because it was the day of preparation, so that this is preparation for Passover, so that the body should not remain on the cross on the Sabbath, for that Sabbath was a high day. And he asked Pilate that their legs might be broken, that they might be taken away. The soldiers therefore came and broke the legs of the first man, and the other man who was crucified with him. But coming to Jesus, when they saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. And I believe that the saying Gomer Chatima Tova is meaning that Jesus, his finished work on the cross, enable us to have a good a finished signature in the Lamb's Book of Life. And if we but accept his sacrifice, that is the key. We have to choose to accept his sacrifice. If we do, our sins are covered, and we are written with a good signature in the Lamb's Book of Life. John, would you like to add anything?
Well, I only a couple of things that struck me. One, when it's mentioned in the book of Genesis, there is this tree of life. And what struck me was, a tree is made of wood. When we speak of the book of life, well, most books we have nowadays are written on paper, and paper comes from wood, which comes from a tree. I don't know if there's any parallels there or if there's anything significant in that, but when what was put on the tree was our the means by which we can the means by which our names is written on the book of life, and that means was Christ. He was the paper, and the paper came from the tree that was in, as you mentioned, in the Garden of Eden. This is the time when the books are open, and this is the time when they merit a good signature book of life before the books are closed. So this is the time when the books are open but will soon be closed, and they are doing everything they can to make sure that name is written in the book of life. When you mention Moses, I may have more questions than answers when he mentioned that when he pleaded on behalf of the children of Israel because they sinned, that God blot his name out of the book of life and spare them. And it occurred to me, I said, gee, how did he know? Well, I guess he knew about this book of life from Genesis, but how did he know his name was written in there? And who wrote his name in there? So I don't have a good answer for it. Only a question, and maybe it's not a good question, but for some reason Moses knew or understood that his name was in that book and it was written in there. He was doing God's command, God's will, and perhaps based on that conclusion, yes, if you choose God, your name is written in the book of life, and maybe it's as simple as that. And since they were disobeying God, that would probably be an indication that their name would not be there. Mm-hmm. And Moses asked for that exchange of his life for theirs. So that's the only thing I have.
Well, since you said that, that was prophetic also. Moses was willing to exchange his life for theirs, but Moses couldn't do it because Moses, even though he offered, Moses was a sinful man. He wasn't perfect, but Jesus, the Yeshua, would be able to do that. It was nice of Moses to offer to do that, but he could not fulfill that. But Jesus could, because he was sin free.
Well, no, my point was that for some reason Moses thought his name was in that book of life.
No, I'm not disagreeing. No, I'm just saying Moses, he was doing a prophetic act by offering to exchange his life for Israel. No, I'm not debating. I think it's interesting that like you said, that how did he know his name was written? That's interesting. I think that's something we could discuss at length. But I was just mentioning that he was doing something. He did what Jesus did.
He was trying to exchange something that he did not have the power to exchange or merit to exchange, or
right. And I don't mean it in a mean way, but he couldn't do it. Only Jesus could do it, because he was sin. He was sin free, and he was God. He was acting on behalf of God.
Right.
So he was able to do the work that needed to be done.
Well, for some reason, Moses thought that he had enough merit whereby he could exchange it.
Well, I'm sure in a sense that he was. I just threw the prophetic thing in there. Just again, Moses operated in a prophetic mode, because remember in Deuteronomy when he said, "There's one coming like me." So I'm not discounting anything Moses is doing. No, I was just pointing out that.
No, but no one nowadays, and maybe we see it a lot clearer than Moses. No one now would think, okay, God, you blot my name out of the book of life and write someone else's name in. No one. Well, we know that Christ has done that for us, so no one would ever make a statement like that.
But that, like the I think it's a Yiddish saying, that take a lot of chutzpah from Moses to be able to go before God and do that, to say blot my name out, but I mean it said a lot. I mean, so we could study that from now, because that was really
Well, some have mentioned that Moses' character, and maybe he thought his character was his moral life was at a place where he can make such a statement. But I don't know. He did make certain requests that happened to him has not happened to anyone else since. Even in the Torah says that God only spoke to Moses face to face. So he did merit certain. There were certain things about Moses that hasn't happened to anyone else.
Well, I've lost my train of thought a little bit. But anyway, that's basically what Yom Kippur is about, and this is a joyous time for us, because we know that the sacrifice has been made, and the blood has been shed, and that Yeshua is our salvation. And the most exciting time is coming on sundown Wednesday, when we begin Sukkot, because many believe that Sukkot is the time of the birth of Messiah, and it's a 7-day festival with on the 8th day Simchat Torah, celebrating the giving of the Torah. So this is indeed exciting times, and we look forward to joining back with you all to give you a view into what Sukkot is. So if you don't have anything else, John?
No, that's it.
Well, we pray that you all will have had a successful Yom Kippur. And I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I'm going to use the past tense of the word finish. Gomar, which means he finished Hatima Tova. He, being Messiah Jesus, finished a good signature for us, because we have accepted his sacrifice. So Gomar Hatima Tova. And we'll sing this song that we usually sang in church sometime when I was growing up. I know it was the blood. And we'll sing one verse of that. I
know it was the blood. I know it was the blood. I know it was the blood for me. One day when I was lost, He died upon the cross. I know it was the blood for me.
חתימה טובה.
טובה.